Have you ever wondered about the silent war that is raging on our streets? A war that, unlike the horrifying conflict in Ukraine, is not waged with tanks and guns, but with price cuts for market share and mercenary profits. There is a war within the taxi and private hire industry that seem to benefit consumers, but it does more harm than the cheap good that it is pitching to bring. It caused steep decline income to the drivers and caused them to incur losses and forces them out of the job. Eventually everyone will pay a steep price through demand surges or gets no ride at all in the hour of need. The taxi economy and industry is dying, and the private hire seems to be the new norm. Taxi drivers face increasing costs and tightening margins due to cheap comfort rides and are leaving due to non-sustainability reasons. Private hire drivers are getting better surge prices for the commuting service shortage and only drives when the surge is high. This cherry-picking behavior makes it more rewarding to work less and earn more. The taxi population hit another low in January with a fleet of 13,485, less than half the 2014 peak of 28,736. This information is published in the Straits Times in March 2024. Drivers are bleeding and subsidizing cheap comfort rides for the general public in order for Zig to compete with the Grab monopoly. The price war in an oligopoly environment means that total revenue in the industry shared by all the drivers will drop critically, while their cost of rental, commissions payable and petrol costs hike upwards. This forces drivers to work extra hours to break even to make a decent living. Due to the low margin caused by cheap comfort rides, taxi drivers earn only $150 to $200 a day after working for 16 hours. Risk of accidents and losses increases tremendously when there is a price decline. If the cheap comfort rides continue to be the choice by commuters, taxi drivers would have no choice but to accept the low rates of revenue which yield little or no margin due for the cost of service supply. The drivers will have to work a lot more without any increase in income and incur losses if they do not take on the extended working hours to make ends meet. At the end of the day, the taxi population will drop further and critically. The public ride-hail service prices could soar further during peak hours, and during non-peak hours, commuters might not be able to get any ride service without paying steep premiums due to declining supply of taxi services. It's a grim picture. Over 15,000 people have lost their jobs in the taxi industry, just a conservative estimate. The actual figure could easily be 2 to 5 times higher. The taxi industry, once seen as a luxury service, has now become a battlefield where the casualties are not only the drivers but also the passengers who rely on this service for their day-to-day commute. Imagine being late for a crucial meeting or missing your child's performance because you couldn't get a taxi. Imagine the frustration of willing to pay, yet unable to find a taxi when you need it the most. The authorities have failed to intervene effectively, like how the other countries against Uber and Grab. The public members are plagued by this shortage of taxis and surging prices. Meanwhile, over 15,000 to 30,000 drivers could be earning subnormal profits and suffering in silence from the industry. The further the price war extends itself, the deeper the wounds being inflicted on the taxi drivers, and the more consumers will pay for the surge pricings and having to face the unavailability and unreliability of the public taxi service. Only the platform providers stand to gain because they collect fixed fees for every job that they connect. The percentage of fees will also increase. For Grab, their profit will increase further since they take on 24% profit sharing on the gross revenue of private hire drivers, and given the shortage in taxi population, their amount of profits will scale drastically upwards. A war that continues to rage on with no end in sight. The question remains, why is there no intervention from the authorities when the industry has lapsed in service quality and reliability? Why has the public interest become a joke? Perhaps it's time we shed light on the plight of our local taxi drivers. It's time we start acknowledging them as an integral part of our society, as the backbone of our commuting system. Let us bring this awareness and understanding to everyone so that we can all be part of the advocacy against the predicaments. It is unlikely that the local authorities will dare to challenge the owners of these taxi and private hire platforms. Take responsibility and action now, especially when we are the victims. Stop being a coward for once and join us as heroes to save our own day. Like, subscribe, share us to help us in our outreach. Help us all together with this simple act. Liking, subscribing, and sharing us on YouTube. You are the beneficiary of our actions, so please join us in this outreach with everyone else by liking, subscribing, and sharing for our campaign.